Do you have questions about what a LiPo battery is and how exactly to know which one to pick for your vehicle? Well, I got you covered. Check out this video. Plus, for a bonus, I'll take it out for a field test to see how different batteries compare on the same truck. This is a array of LiPo batteries here that you can see, and there's a wide range depending on the application. It can also be a little daunting to look at the batteries because there's all sorts of numbers written on them. So when you're looking at the batteries, you're going to see many numbers, including a large number with an MAH next to it. This milliamp rating has to do mostly with run time. So the higher the rating, the longer your battery is going to last. You also will hear people refer to batteries in number and an S. So 3S, 4S, 6S, things like that. That really equates to the cell numbers. So the truck you get will have a certain range of what the electronic speed control can handle in terms of cell size. And so if you're getting a 10th scale truck, those typically would be 2 to 3S capable. An 8th scale might be 4 to 6S capable. The larger 5th scales would be up to 8S capable and beyond if you're going for a bigger speed control. So looking at the cell number is important. Another way to do that is by looking at the voltage. So this is a 6-cell battery. It's going to have a 22.2 volt rating on there, and that is typically what a 6-cell would have for voltage rating. You're also going to see another number on there that has a C after it. That C rating has to do a lot with how punchy the battery is. Bursts of power are higher on a higher C rating. And some vehicles have a C rating minimum. Before buying your LiPo, you want to check on the minimum LiPo requirements for the RC that you have. For example, the newest version Arrma Kraton has a minimum C rating of 35 and a minimum milliamp of 5,000. That's because this Spektrum ESC that comes in it needs at least that much to run. So they do sell batteries that are lower C ratings and lower milliamps, and you'd be in trouble if you got that. The C rating of 100, for example, on this one, or the CNHL battery that's 120C, packs a much higher punch, which is something that I like when I'm driving on off-road bashing sessions. When looking at the C rating, you can get too little of a battery, but rarely can you get too much. So you'd likely want to aim for a higher C rating than too low. So you want to get at least the minimum and then some. The only downside for getting too high of one is the battery might be too big. That more usually correlates with the milliamp rating. So you can get a huge milliamp, but you might be dealing with a very big battery. One thing I like about this Zeee pack is, although it's a soft pack, it's not a hard case, so that makes it less durable. But the nice part is that it can fit in trucks like my Typhon. And I noticed that in buggies like that, it's very hard to find 6S batteries that fit easily. So when you find one that's slim enough but is still 6S, it is a good advantage. Another thing you want to pay attention to when buying your first LiPos is the right connector. There's a lot of different connectors out there, and some name brands go with certain ones. Traxxas, for example, has its own connector. Arrma usually runs with these IC5 or IC3 connectors that come with Spektrum. And these EC5 connectors actually do fit with the IC5, as you can see here. They're a little different, but they do fit together. So oftentimes I opt for the EC5 if it's available. So just pay attention to that. It's an easy mistake to make, and you get the battery home and you realize the connector's wrong. That's not impossible to fix though, especially if you have a soldering iron or you know someone that does. You can swap out those connectors and still run the battery. So battery prices vary wildly. That's because there's a wide range of sizes and applications. You can go from a $30 cheapo battery to a $330 massive 12S battery, and everything in between. There's smart basher batteries that are pretty expensive, close to $200 for a Spektrum G2 smart battery. But there's a wide range. Some cheap brands like Zeee actually is pretty cheap, but I've liked them. There's also higher end ones, SMC, CNHL, all sorts of other batteries out there. And some people swear by the higher end because it gives more accurate rating and more true power. Whereas some of these other ones, it's a little questionable as to, is the C rating really that accurate? Just know that there's a wide range and you got to do your research to pick the right one. You're going to have a good charger that can charge multiple batteries at once. And the higher end ones can do that at a higher amperage. So when it comes to charging your Lipo battery, there are some considerations to keep in mind. This is a form of Lipo safety in the form of a bag. This bag is fireproof and it's made for Lipo batteries. If you don't have one, if you're storing Lipo batteries or charging them without anything like this, definitely get your hands on one. These are highly flammable objects. They can burst into flames while you're driving them and while you're charging them, even sometimes while they're being stored. So I have a couple versions of this. This is an ammo case that can also be used in this way. So especially while you're charging these, you want to have them in something like this. And that's, I just keep my batteries in here when I'm not using them, and especially while I'm charging them. The same here. If you're gonna use an ammo can, always remember to remove the weather stripping. I do it on the sides and the bottom here, because otherwise it's going to be too tightly sealed, and if they do catch fire, the thing's going to turn into a bomb. You don't want that. You want it breathable. Another way is some people recommend drilling holes in these, but either way, you definitely want to have something like this if you're going to get into the hobby. Prices on those containers can range from $10 to like $130 on a high-end Lipo storage bag. Some of those higher end ones have slots for you to plug the battery through when you're charging, which is the most dangerous time. So because of that, you want to keep it in this bag and do so with it all zipped up. You also never want to leave a charging battery unattended. You don't want to go to the store, for example, as you've got your batteries charging. You want to keep an eye on them, keep them in this bag, and do it as safely as possible. Another helpful tip, especially for this charger that I have here, which is the Spektrum S2100 smart charger, it comes with IC3 connectors, and I have IC5s. So I need these extender plugs to convert it to an IC3 plug, as well as I got some balance plug extenders to just lengthen up the balance plug. You can get a variety pack of those. I'll give you an Amazon affiliate link in the description, and it comes with all different size cables so that you can reach from your battery to the charger. Other fireproof bags have a more easy access hole through here that makes this a little more simple, but this works pretty well for me. And so you would zip this up while charging. And let me show you some data that comes up on the charger that you should be aware of. One, this charger in particular, and most modern chargers these days, will give you quite a few readouts that it automatically picks up from the battery. In the past, on the older chargers, you'd had to manually tell it what kind of battery it is, such as Lipo, how many cells it has, but these newer ones just give it to you already. So for example, it shows you each of the 6 cells and what their voltage is. Now you want, first off, these voltages to be consistent. As you can see, they're all the same here. So 4.09 it's reading. That means this battery is already almost charged. And the way I can tell that is because the fully charged battery will equal 4.20 volts. So that's what you're going to be aiming for with any Lipo battery that you're charging, going up to 4.20. This is very close. It means that I just ran this battery a little bit and only depleted a bit of the charge. The storage charge that you would want your batteries to be at would be 3.8. That's the sweet spot if you're going to be having your battery sit for a while. I don't always do that, to be honest, but it is best for the life of your battery to keep it at 3.8 when you're not using it. Okay, so aside from the voltage, you can also set your current. and that means the amperage that your battery is going to charge at. In other words, the higher the amperage, the faster it will charge. This particular charger goes all the way up to 12 amps, and that would be set for like a really fast charge. Let's say if I was really in a hurry and I just needed to get this thing charged fast so I can go, you could technically do it that fast. I wouldn't advise it though. A good rule of thumb is to set your amperage to the same equivalent as the milliamps. So a 6,000 milliamp battery would be ideally charged at 6 amps. And that's to kind of preserve the life of the battery. Another battery example might be, let's say you had a 4,000, you would charge that at 4 amps. A 5,200, 5.2 amps, etc. So I would recommend you use that rule of thumb when picking the speed at which you charge your batteries. So then you zip up your battery when you're all set to go, and you simply start it up. This charger is pretty straightforward, and many other ones are as well. You can charge 2 batteries at the same time on this one and many others. Some can even do 4 batteries, I believe. But your limiting factor will be the power of your charger. So this one, for example, can charge one at 6 amps, whereas if I tried to do 2 at the same time, it's going to be pulling less amperage on this side. So if you want a more consistent power delivery, you're going to have to up your price to a higher powered charger and maybe even add a power supply that gives it more power as well. If you were to plug in your battery and you noticed that 1 or 2 of these cells were much lower than the others, that would be problematic. You would want to try to balance that battery to see if you can pull up the voltage to make it more even. If one of the cells is off, it can really damage the battery, and if it's too far below, the battery might be a goner. So check your voltage and make sure it's balanced properly. That's another reason why you'd always want to use a balanced plug. This battery charger doesn't have the option to balance charge, but some other ones do, and that helps. It's not for charging the battery, it's simply for trying to balance out all the cells to be even again. So it can be recovered, but if it's too far gone, you're gonna not want to have that battery anymore. Another thing to look for to know that your battery has gone bad is if it's super puffy. This happens over time for many Lipos. They'll bulge up. It looks as if there's air trapped in there. That's a bad sign. And you don't want to keep that battery around too long if it's puffing up. It might be more likely to cause fires and things like that. Each of these are the cells. And another thing to look for is if one of them gets gouged. On a hard crash or something, if this were to get pushed in, I would not keep that battery. That's a fire waiting to happen. So just watch out for those signs. You want to dispose of them properly. If that happens, there's some ways to do that, including like going to Home Depot. They have a battery disposal option. So keep an eye on these things and don't let them turn into Molotov cocktails. So I'd like to do a little demonstration now to just compare some battery sizes. I'll just compare some of the batteries that I have side by side in the same vehicle, and we can just see if the top speed varies and by how much. So let's get out there and give it a spin. Alright, so I'm going to do some testing here of some batteries. I got a couple different varieties here, and I'm going to try it on this Arrma Typhon. Super windy, of course, so I apologize for the wind noise, but I'm not going to necessarily be testing the speed of this truck, just more so showing you the differences of these batteries and how they compare. I'm running a 21 tooth pinion on this Typhon, so with some foam tires, so it should get pretty good speed. So I'll try two 2S batteries. These are Spektrums, 50C 5000 milliamp, so kind of lower end performance wise. Then I can test that compared to this much higher performance 4S battery. It's actually 15.2 volts, 8200 milliamp and 120C, so much higher performance 4S versus these two for 4S. And then last but not least, I'll show you the difference when you add 2 more cells for a 6S battery with this Zeee 100C 6000 milliamp pack. If there was a way to test the acceleration on the different C ratings, that would be even better, but for these purposes I'll just try top speed and see if that varies. Pinion came loose for some reason. Guess it wasn't lined up right. This is not going to be good because now that means the pinion is not Loctited in. So we'll see if it flings off, hopefully not. Alright, so I got the GPS on. Let's try it. This is the Spektrum 2S batteries. See what they do. Not that fast. Something's up with these batteries. These aren't working right. 36. Try a different battery. 36 is not much. It should go faster than that at least. So instead of those, we'll try this Zeee 5200 milliamp 120C 4S pack as a starting point. So now let's try this again so we get better luck. That's better. Ooh, God. $43. All right, 43. Let me try one more time. 42. All right, so now let's try the higher voltage 4-cell. So just something to note, this 15.2 volt 4-cell CNHL battery is different because normally 4-cell batteries like this Zeee one are 14.8 volt. So this is actually a higher voltage, still being a 4-cell. So that's interesting. I've never actually tested this 4-cell compared to another one to see what the difference is. Should be interesting. Not only is it a higher performance like numbers on the battery, but it's a better brand, so we'll just see how it compares. The time to beat will be 43 miles an hour. Sounds terrible. Doesn't sound very smooth. That's the gears. 45. All right, so really only 2 miles an hour difference. Let's see if I can get one more run. It is punchier with this battery, but as far as top speed goes, it's not that appreciable of a difference between the two 4-cell batteries. 43 and 45. So now let's switch to 6-cell and see what that brings. I've been tightening this pinion grub screw between runs. I think I actually might have stripped it trying to tighten it so much because I'm afraid it's going to fling off before the test is done. But so far so good. So this will be the test of the 6-cell battery. The time to beat 45. This should be easy. Way faster, way faster. Very noticeable. I'm sure you can tell that's a lot faster. Awesome. 63. All right, so almost 20 miles an hour faster. So that, folks, shows that 6-cell batteries make a big difference versus 4-cell. All right, as usual, thanks so much for tuning in. Be sure to hit that like button and subscribe. I know a lot of people say that on YouTube channels, but the reason is that YouTube won't promote these videos unless people like them, comment especially, and subscribe. And this channel has been growing, so I appreciate all of you guys that are doing that. You know who you are. Very much appreciated. So see you in the next video. Thanks.